What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Friday, February 7th, 2025, and I have some breaking news to share with you guys. Right now it is 1300 Eastern Time here in the United States, and we have some major breaking news coming in from Eastern Europe. So what you're looking at here is an article that was posted yesterday by Forbes. And Forbes is stating in this article that Russia tried to launch another Oreshnik missile at Ukraine yesterday morning, and they're saying that it exploded on Russian soil, so it didn't actually make it to Ukraine. But what's interesting is yesterday morning we had emergency action messages going crazy here in the US, and there were multiple over-the-horizon radars that were being heard by amateur radio enthusiasts. So this could have some truth to it. This is very, very serious because this means that Putin is not interested in any kind of real peace, which we know he's not, because why would he give up everything he's gained to the US and NATO? So he's not going to go for any kind of deal that's going to strengthen Ukraine and strengthen NATO. But this is very, very serious. And last night we had something going on because the French Navy based out of Toulon was transmitting encrypted data for several hours last night. Now, Toulon is the largest naval base in the Mediterranean Sea. It's where 60% of the French Navy's tonnage is located. So let me just play this clip for you from last night. So this is encrypted data that was transmitted by the French Navy's largest naval base. Very unusual. And China is planning to launch some kind of a missile on February 11th. And it looks like they're going to launch it towards the Philippines into the Sulu Sea. So if you look closely here, you can see these red rectangles. So these are going to be the landing zones where the missile is going to land. And they're probably going to be launching from Hainan Island. And they're probably going to be launching from Hainan Island, which is where they launched their ICBM from last year that flew into the Pacific, far into the Pacific. What's interesting is last week a U.S. recon plane flew towards the Hainan Island and did a couple passes here. So my guess, and I could be wrong, is that China's testing some kind of short-range missile or cruise missile as a show of force to the U.S. and the Philippines, because the U.S. and the Philippines are now operating the Typhoon missile system here, which can launch both Tomahawk missiles and the SM-6 interceptors. Okay, it's a mobile missile system, and it can reach China. So very, very provocative move by China to do this missile test right next to the Philippines, literally just less than a month after Trump is inaugurated. And we're hearing that preparations for a Putin and Trump meeting are at an advanced stage, according to a Russian official who was cited by Reuters. And the Baltic countries are going to be cutting their energy ties with Russia this weekend. They're going to be joining the European power grid. Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia will disconnect from Russia's power grid this weekend and synchronize with the Western European network. So this could potentially provoke Putin to invade the Baltics, because now Kaliningrad is going to be cut off. I don't know how Kaliningrad is going to get their electricity now if the Baltics sever their connection to Russia, because the electricity that goes to Kaliningrad goes through the Baltics into Kaliningrad. And so if they sever those connections, how is electricity going to get to Kaliningrad? So it's possible that this weekend all of Kaliningrad could go dark. Okay, so that could provoke Putin to do something crazy like invade. And over the last couple of days, there's been a ton of NATO recon in Poland and the Baltic countries. Okay, so something's definitely brewing over there. And Emmanuel Macron announced the delivery of French Mirage 2000 fighter jets to Ukraine. The first of them arrived yesterday, and the Minister of Defense of Ukraine confirmed the arrival of the Mirage 2000 jets from Ukraine. He also said that additional F-16s are going to be coming from the Netherlands. My guess is Ukraine is going to start launching some deep strikes with these fighter jets. I think they're just waiting for this peace plan to be proposed by Trump, which, by the way, is going to be proposed next week at the Munich Security Conference. That's what we're hearing. According to Bloomberg, the Trump administration will present a plan to end the war in Ukraine at the Munich Security Conference. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with that. And the president of Ukraine said that Putin will try to drag Belarus into a war. He said in the spring, summer, or autumn, Putin will start deploying troops into Belarus. He also warned that Putin may try to provoke Poland and the Baltic countries. And Russian media is reporting of a new Ukrainian offensive near the town of Ulyanovsk. And what you're looking at here is a map showing this area where the Ukrainians have pushed into in the Kursk region. You can see the town of Ulyanovsk, and this whole area here, shaded light gray, has been taken by the Ukrainians in the last day or so. I'm hearing that as much as 100 square miles have been taken by the Ukrainians. So big victory for the Ukrainians. And Ukraine's chances of getting nuclear weapons are between slim and none, said Keith Kellogg, the U.S. Special Envoy to Ukraine. And he also said that Trump is ready to double sanctions against Russia to end the war. Wow. And Ukraine's ambassador to the U.S., Oksana Markarova, met with Trump's envoy Keith Kellogg for the first time, calling their discussion very substantive. Okay, so the special envoy is in Ukraine right now. And isn't it interesting that Russia launched this Oreshnik yesterday while the special envoy was there? Okay, so clearly that's a big middle finger from Putin to Trump. And U.S. President Trump does not have an official plan to end Russia's full-scale war against Ukraine, according to Zelensky. He said yesterday, there is no official plan yet. What is in certain publications, I am sure that is not President Trump's official plan. Okay, because there was some leaked information from the Daily Mail yesterday that said that Trump wants Ukraine to accept all the occupied territories and that they would put peacekeepers along the front line. We don't know if that's true, so I think Zelensky was responding to that that's not true yet. He hasn't heard of anything like that. And Slovakia has resumed gas imports from Russia via the Turk Stream pipeline. So this is a pipeline that goes through Turkey. And recent reports have surfaced of mass graves in the occupied territories of Ukraine where Russian soldiers reported as missing by the Russian government are now being buried there. Wow. And more Russian soldiers died near Pokrovsk in January than in the entire Second Chechen War, according to the Ukrainian military. So very fierce battles in the Pokrovsk direction, which, if the Russians continue to push through there, they could go all the way to Dnipropetrovsk because there's nothing stopping them. Okay, if they break through the line over there. And Saudi Arabia is opposing the relocation of Palestinians. The Saudi Prince Turki Al Faisal said if the Palestinians are to move from Gaza, they must be allowed to return to their homes in Haifa, Jaffa, and other cities from which they fled or were forcibly expelled by the Israelis. And a federal judge on Thursday temporarily blocked President Trump's plan to push out federal workers by offering them financial incentives. The ruling came hours before the midnight deadline for them to apply for the Deferred Resignation Program. U.S. District Judge George O'Toole Jr. in Boston directed the administration to extend that deadline until after a court hearing he scheduled for Monday afternoon. O'Toole did not express an opinion on the legality of the program, which is being challenged by several labor unions, and said he would weigh arguments next week. Okay, so as of right now, the big layoff is not happening just yet because of this judge in Boston. Okay, so we're going to keep an eye on that. And U.S. President Trump announced Thursday the creation of a task force to eradicate anti-Christian bias in government, intensifying a crackdown since returning to power. The Republican billionaire said he was putting new Attorney General Pam Bondi at the head of the force to end persecution of the majority religion of the United States. Trump said its mission would be to immediately halt all forms of anti-Christian targeting and discrimination in the Department of Justice, the IRS, the FBI, and other government agencies. He also said they would prosecute anti-Christian violence and vandalism in our society. He said, "We will protect Christians in our schools, in our military, and our government, in our workplaces, hospitals, and in our public squares." Trump told a national prayer breakfast at a Washington hotel. He also announced the creation of a White House faith office led by his spiritual advisor, the televangelist Paula White. And at least 4 cattle herds in Nevada have tested positive for a strain of H5N1 bird flu never before seen in cows. And ICE and DHS have been raiding apartments in Aurora, Colorado, which, if you remember, that's an area controlled by this Venezuelan gang. And there was video footage showing them arriving there in armored vehicles. Okay, so they're expecting clashes with the Venezuelan gangs. And Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem will visit the migrant detention center at the naval station in Guantanamo Bay. And Trump is preparing to impose sanctions on the International Criminal Court because of them putting out an arrest warrant on Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. And the Army Black Hawk helicopter that collided with an American Airlines passenger plane was flying too high, according to the National Transportation Safety Board. The flight data that the NTSB has obtained confirmed that the helicopter was flying at 300 feet, which is 100 feet more than it should have been flying in the nation's capital. And the Trump administration has agreed to restrict Doge access to the Treasury Department payment systems due to personal data concerns. So Doge is the Department of Government Efficiency led by Elon Musk. So Trump is restricting Doge access to Treasury Department payment systems. Very interesting. And Doge is now scrutinizing the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Initially, the NOAA was denied access to the IT systems, but they have now since regained access after the agency's DEI program was reviewed. And Panama has agreed to withdraw from China's Belt and Road Initiative. And U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is refusing to attend the G20 summit in South Africa, stating South Africa is doing very bad things, expropriating private property, using G20 to promote solidarity, equality, and sustainability. In other words, DEI and climate change. And the U.S. seized a Venezuelan government plane in the Dominican Republic. And I want to show you guys some flight paths. So what you're looking at here are a bunch of recon planes and aerial refuelers in Nevada, and they've been flying here for the last several days every night. And someone out there said that Jade Helm has restarted and they're doing another Jade Helm exercise, and that's what this is. I don't know if you guys have any more information about that. Please put it in the comments down below. But I am hearing that Jade Helm has restarted. If you don't know what Jade Helm is, you can look it up. It was basically an exercise during the Obama administration to practice martial law, and they had a red team, blue team scenario in which there was like a civil war between the red states and the blue states, and the military had to go in So very, very concerning. We had some interesting reconnaissance in the Middle East yesterday. Here we have a U.S. recon drone that was patrolling the coast of Libya, and then a U.S. recon drone that was somewhere over the Arabian Peninsula. And then here we have a bunch of recon just south of Taiwan. 3 reconnaissance planes just to the south of Taiwan. You can see this RQ-4 Global Hawk, which is a U.S. recon plane, doing numerous passes here just south of Taiwan. A P-3 Orion Sub-Hunter, and then a rivet joint as well. Okay, so massive reconnaissance here just south of Taiwan, and then a P-8 Poseidon in the South China Sea, just to the west of the Philippines. The Philippines have been having a lot of issues in the South China Sea lately with China. And here we have some reconnaissance from yesterday over Poland. This was during the failed Oreshnik strike. We had this Swedish recon plane that normally never goes to Poland. It usually only flies over here in the Baltic Sea. It flew all the way down to Poland, and then it went up through the Suwalki Gap. Then there was also a Polish AWACS plane patrolling the tri-border of Poland, Belarus, and Ukraine, and this is an area where Russia has tens of thousands of troops piled up on the border of Poland. There was also a NATO AWACS plane up here in northern Poland as well. And then yesterday, during the failed Oreshnik strike, we had U.S. nuclear forces on high alert. 2 B-52s were airborne, 2 nuclear war command and controls, E-6 Mercuries, and then we also had a nuke sniffer that flew from Offutt Air Base to Colorado Springs, and it was doing loops over Colorado Springs. It's the second night in a row that it was doing that. And then we had probably almost a dozen Russian VIP planes and doomsday planes head to various areas yesterday right before the Oreshnik strike. So here you can see 5 Russian VIP planes and doomsday planes. And then here you can see 6 of them. Okay, so something was going on last night. I don't know exactly what. Looks like a failed Oreshnik strike. And then here's a picture of the Oval Office. Trump put a painting of Reagan in the Oval Office. But that's the latest breaking news that I have. I might be back later on tonight with more breaking news. And thank you guys for all the support. I really appreciate that. And until the next time, take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 Ps: prepare, practice, and persevere.